In the near future, a new illness, known as the maize virus, spreads throughout Europe, causing infected people to turn into killer zombies. Most of the continent manages to control the issue, but Ireland is devastated. Eventually, a cure is discovered, but it only works on 75% of the infected people, while the other 25% seem to be resistant to it. Those who get better are known as the cured and can have a normal life again. The ones who stay infected are known as the resistant and kept in captivity, although the general public thinks they should be killed to avoid a new outbreak. The cured are still able to remember the days they spent as zombies and the horrible things they did. So many of them have to deal with serious PTSD. Senan is currently having bloody visions of his past, so he runs to check himself in the mirror. There are some veins on the corner of his eye, which are the mark of a cured person, and this helps him calm down. Soon, his cured friend Connor comes to check on him, and they both agree they don't think life will truly go back to normal. Later, Senan sees Sergeant Cantor, his rehabilitation officer. Senan shares that he was infected for 4 years and that he has nightmares, but Cantor sees this as a good thing because he believes the cured should always remember how much suffering they caused. He then announces that Senan will be taken in by his sister-in-law, Abigail, which is very surprising. People still see the cured as dirty and dangerous, so they don't want them in their houses. Usually, they end up in accommodation centers. When Senan and Connor take the bus, they watch how much the city has changed. Now there are soldiers and camps everywhere. People riot on the streets, and the government is debating what to do with the resistant. Outside the accommodation center, there are dozens of protesters throwing objects, as they call the cured murderers and not human. Once they reach their destination, Senan and Connor say goodbye with a hug, and Connor advises Senan not to share his secret with his sister-in-law. Meanwhile, Abigail is a reporter who lives with her son, Killian. Unfortunately, her husband, Luke, died during the outbreak. When Senan arrives, Abigail welcomes him with a hug. Senan tells her she doesn't need to help him, but Abigail says it's what Luke would have wanted, not to mention this is his house. She also asks about Luke's last moments, but Senan claims he and his brother were separated during the evacuation. That night, Senan can't sleep and keeps thinking about how it all started. He and Luke had been together when the evacuation sirens started echoing throughout the city. Luke immediately went looking for his family, but couldn't find them. At that moment, a zombie appeared behind Senan and attacked him, so Luke quickly tried to help him by hitting the creature with a tool. Unfortunately, it was too late. Senan was already infected, and he told his brother to run. Luke quickly left and locked the door behind him. However, Senan went crazy and started to bring it down. The next day, Connor visits his father to ask him if he can find him a better job. Currently, he's working as a cleaner, but he wants to be a lawyer-like before the infection. His father is disgusted by the request and pushes Connor against a car, calling him a monster because of what he did to his mother. In the meantime, Senan takes his old bike to the treatment center where he's working. An officer first checks his eyes to make sure he's cured before letting him pass. Dr. Joan asks him to deal with a resistant called Joe, who has been restrained to a bed. She freaks out when she sees Joan, screaming and growling as she tries to free herself. Senan manages to hold Joe down because she only hates the doctor, not him, and now Joan can give her an injection. Joan also explains that Joe recognized Senan as one of her own because, even after getting cured, traces of the virus are still in his cells. Afterward, Senan sits with Joe and bathes her while showing her some compassion. When Abigail goes to school to pick Killian up, the other parents judge her for welcoming a monster into her house. Sometime later, Senan visits Connor at the accommodation center and tells him that the resistant don't attack the cured. This makes Connor think the cured would be safer around the resistant than bigoted normal people. Their chat is interrupted by Cantor, who scolds Connor for skipping work. Connor explains he isn't a cleaner, so Cantor has to remind him things have changed and they must play by the new rules. Cantor also tells Connor not to contact his family anymore because they don't want him back in their lives. Hearing this makes Connor snap and attack Cantor, who immediately smashes Connor on the table and throws him on the floor. Senan wants to help his friend, but 2 armed men hold him back. That night, Senan dreams about being a zombie and attacking a child. When he wakes up, he finds bigoted graffiti on the front door. Meanwhile, Joan is horrified to learn that the government will start killing all the resistant, promising they'll be gone by the end of the week. At the same time, Connor approaches Abigail and introduces himself as Senan's friend. Abigail is friendly toward the cured and asks him about his experience, So Connor explains how hard it was to be trapped inside his own body and how it was impossible to resist the bloodthirst. At the treatment center, Senan keeps helping Joan work on a cure by handling Joe. During his break, he notices two soldiers entering the building where the resistant are kept. Suddenly, he hears a woman growling, so he follows the noise into a cell. There, a soldier is keeping a female resistant down while the other soldier is peeing on her legs. A furious Senan tackles the man, who uses his soldier training to easily overpower Senan and push him against the wall. The resistant uses the distraction to free herself from the soldier's hold and starts chasing him through the corridors. The other soldier immediately takes out his gun and shoots her. Senan is devastated to watch her die, but the soldier says she was going to die anyway. While riots on the streets get worse, Joan appears on the news. She defends the resistance rights and swears she only needs a bit more time to find a better cure. The hostess disagrees, saying that killing the resistant is a merciful act to protect society. Hearing this, Connor points out that the government will come after the cured next, and they must stop them. Later, Connor takes Senan to the basement of the accommodation center, where rebels have formed the Cured Alliance to fight for their rights. They get a bunch of Molotov bombs ready, and Connor tells Senan they'll only be targeting empty homes. That night, the rebels visit a bunch of different houses belonging to the soldiers and set them on fire. At the same time, Abigail is woken up by a call from her boss, who wants her to cover the incident, so she gets to notice that Senan isn't in his room. The next morning, the news talk about the Cured Alliance and call them a terrorist organization. Senan is shocked to hear a man did die during the bombing. Now, any person protesting in favor of cured rights gets arrested. A memory reveals that it was Connor who bit Senan, and Luke tried to make his brother see reason, only for Senan to attack him and kill him in the same house Abigail is living in now. One afternoon, in the doctor's office, Senan finds a picture of Joan and Joe together. It turns out they were a couple and found the cure together before Joe was infected. When he goes home, Abigail asks him if he's been attending Cured Alliance meetings since he leaves the house every night, but he denies it. Then she shares how horrible it was to come home and find her husband's dead body on the floor. To distract her from the pain, Senan takes Abigail and Killian to a spot outside the city with a wonderful view. He explains he and Luke came here all the time when they were kids. That night, Connor visits Senan at home, but things get tense when Abigail points out it's a good idea to euthanize the resistant to avoid another outbreak. However, she's in favor of cured rights and thinks they can't be blamed for what they did as zombies since they weren't in control, which makes Connor wonder if she would forgive her husband's killer. Abigail gets upset and leaves the room. Then Senan calls Connor out for lying about the empty houses and announces he's quitting the Alliance. The next day, while Senan is taking Killian to school, Cantor visits Abigail under the excuse he must check on the cured's families. After a few routine questions, Cantor begins showing his true colors. He thinks the zombies aren't mindless, that they hunt together as a pack and communicate with each other to make plans for their killing. Cantor leaves a confidential file for Abigail and asks her to call him if she knows anything. Then he leaves. When Abigail opens the file, she's surprised to see pictures of Senan and Connor while they were zombies. Afterward, Abigail sneaks into the accommodation center through the back door to get some footage. She records 5 cured standing in a circle with their eyes closed as they synchronize their panting. When a cured sees her, Abigail moves to another floor and finds Connor giving a speech to convince more cured to join his rebel cause. Suddenly, she's pushed against the wall by the woman who saw her, but Connor stops them before things escalate. Abigail accuses him of being behind the bombings and tells him to stay away from her family, repeating the things Cantor said about hunting as a pack. This makes Connor suspicious, since she isn't supposed to know that. On her way out, Abigail notices people following her, probably to get her camera. She runs to hide inside an empty room and climbs out the window, only for a man to grab her and try to pull her back in. They announce they'll take her to be euthanized like the others, ignoring a crying Joan begging for more time. That night, Joan meets with Connor in secret. Meanwhile, at home, Abigail finds new graffiti on the window, but when she comes out, she doesn't see anybody around. Suddenly, a masked man breaks into the house and hits Senan with a bat, calling him cured scum, before adding more graffiti to the living room walls. As Senan lies on the floor in pain, he keeps hallucinating about Luke's death, and the man hits him again to knock him out before running away. In the morning, the police take a quick look at the graffiti, but they explain this happens often in houses where the cured live, so there isn't much they can do without identifying information. Then Senan goes to see Connor and tells him he was right, so he wants to join the Alliance again to protect his family. Meanwhile, Abigail discovers the intruder took the memory card from her camera that had the recording of the rebels' meeting. Thinking someone from the Alliance did this, Abigail calls Cantor and tells him Connor is planning something. At the accommodation center, Senan joins an Alliance meeting and is surprised to see Joan there. They're making a plan to save Joe, but Senan doesn't want to get any guards killed. Suddenly, they hear some noises and discover that the soldiers are raiding the building, aggressively beating anyone that resists. Connor and the rebels immediately run away, but Senan refuses to follow them, and the soldiers quickly catch him. They ask him some questions, yet Senan stays silent. Moments later, Connor finds Abigail with Killian at the park and tells her that Senan killed Luke, showing her the scar Luke left on his neck when he tried to save his brother. Meanwhile, Cantor tries to interrogate Senan and even offers protection for his family, but Senan still refuses to talk. Since there isn't enough evidence, Senan is released. On his way out, a Kurd brings him a message from Connor about the next meeting. When Senan gets home, Abigail demands the truth, so he finally tells her that he killed Luke. Abigail is upset because he lied to her and kicks him out as she screams in tears. That night, Senan meets with Connor, who explains he told Abigail the truth because Senan had to learn that even those who appear to be nice can turn against the Kurd. This makes Senan realize Connor hasn't had nightmares. At that moment, they're found by Cantor, who now has enough proof to link them to the bombings. Senan cooperates and handcuffs himself, but Connor grabs a broken bottle and jumps on Cantor to brutally stab his neck multiple times until the sergeant is dead. Then Connor grabs Cantor's gun and points it at Senan because it was him who tipped Cantor off. Senan explains he couldn't let Connor keep on hurting people. At that moment, they hear sirens coming, and Connor says the plan is already in motion before running away. The next day, the Kurds sneak into the treatment center by using doctor uniforms Joan got them. They stab the guards before going to the control room, where Joan uses her password to unlock Joe's cell. Suddenly, a Kurd rebel makes her step back under threat and opens all the other cells too, ignoring Joan's protests. At the same time, Senan arrives in the building and walks through the corridor full of resistant without getting hurt because they can smell the virus in him. When the armed rebel tries to leave, Senan tackles him to the ground. At that moment, more soldiers arrive and open fire to kill any resistant sneaking out of the building. A bomb left by the rebels earlier suddenly explodes and destroys the gate, allowing all the resistant to run outside at the same time. Senan does his best to avoid being stepped on, but the rebel doesn't make it. After all the resistant are gone, Senan looks up and is shocked to see Joe still in her cell. He runs away as well, and outside the building, he finds the zombies attacking the soldiers to feed on them. Back to Joan, she also notices that Joe didn't leave and goes to sit next to her. The women hold hands and even share a kiss before a crazy resistant jumps on Joan to bite her. At home, Abigail hears a growling noise and grabs an axe before going outside. When a zombie approaches her, she immediately brings him down. There are more zombies coming, but also a truck full of soldiers who start evacuating the area. Abigail wants to pick up her son from school, yet the soldiers force her to stay with them. Nearby, Senan is running down the street while the soldiers shoot the zombies around him. He finds Abigail being taken away in the truck, and she screams at him, asking him to rescue Killian. All over town, zombies and soldiers continue to fight. Connor tries to befriend one of the creatures, only to watch it get shot down, so he doesn't help the soldier when another zombie jumps on him. The evacuated citizens, like Abigail, are taken to a quarantined camp, but the cured aren't allowed in. Senan runs through all the chaos and makes it to the school, where kids are following a soldier, and the teacher is being eaten by a zombie. He shouts Killian's name until he finds him hiding nearby. Then he picks the boy up and starts running without noticing Connor watching him. A few blocks later, Connor shows up with a zombie that wants to take Killian. Senan makes the boy run away while tackling the zombie to the ground to buy some time. More zombies appear to chase after a running Killian, while Connor hits Senan from behind with a pipe to keep him from following them. When Senan gets up and tries to leave anyway, Connor hits his legs before straddling him to beat him up. The soldiers nearby are still shooting at the zombies, and a stray bullet strikes Connor, bringing him down. Senan has the chance to finish him off, but at that moment, he hears Killian's voice crying for help, so he runs to save his nephew instead. The kid is hiding under a car, and the zombies are reaching out for him. so Senan has no choice but to beat them up with the pipe. Then Senan picks Killian up, and on their way out, he notices Connor is gone. At the quarantine zone, Abigail tells a guard that the cured should be allowed in and spits on the man, who punches her stomach in return. This makes the cured go crazy, and they push in to enter the safe zone. While everyone is distracted, Abigail sneaks into a building and takes the stairs to escape. After walking for a while, she's shocked to find a dead soldier on the ground. At that moment, a zombie comes after her, so Abigail takes the soldier's gun and shoots her down. Then the soldier wakes up as a zombie too, and Abigail has to kill him as well. At the treatment center, Joe stares at Joan's body for a while before finally leaving the building. It's dark outside when Abigail finally returns home. Senan also arrives with Killian, who runs to hug his mother. Suddenly, a zombie jumps out and quickly bites Killian before Senan jumps on him to furiously beat him to death as he screams in frustration. Afterward, Abigail considers killing her son before he transforms, but Senan takes Killian from her. He says that he'll keep his nephew safe until he can get the cure. Then they leave, and Abigail is left grieving alone. Sometime later, the news announce order has been restored, but now there are 8,000 zombies in captivity. The government is still killing the resistant, claiming it's the only way to get rid of the virus for good. The streets are covered with posters of Connor, who has become the face of the rebels. Abigail is worried about her son, but she smiles when she hears in the news that a small group of infected people are on the run in the countryside. Senan and Killian are part of that group and doing their best to survive. That's our recap. Like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more movie recaps. Thanks for watching.